I showed up tonight.
Ouch, that hurt.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
You have to show up. You gotta go stand that hill before I drive down.
Citizens' comments. Citizens, no comments. Committee update. We have no subcommittees tonight, but Joe, do you want anything, alumni or trust you want to?
No, trust, we have our board trust review on January 10th at 6 p.m. down at the library, so if anybody's interested in that. And then our public meeting on February 5th at the library at 6 p.m. The public meeting is when people can show up and give their recommendations of what we're going to do for the budget for next year. So Phil and I have already started working on a list, and we'll go from there. The window project is moving ahead. We're looking to get our prototype in, pending no icicle formation. That will.
You got the first window.
And then I get the first windows.
Right.
I think Bill is leveraging that at this point.
All right, anybody have questions for Joe? Or any other questions for any other subcommittee that did not meet? Okay, educational update. Smith.
Our enrollment stands at 1,009 students. We picked up a pre-K, K, and grade 1 student, and we lost a grade 2 student and a 4th grade student, but we did add a 8th grade student and a 9th grade student. So we now have a total from last month of an additional 4 students. We are holding steady on our outplay students. There are currently 16. That number remains stable. However, there's been a lot of fluctuations. There have been students that have moved out of district and students who have moved in, requiring that kind of educational setting. So although the number looks stable, there's been a lot of activity behind those numbers. Talking about free and reduced lunch. Right now in the district, we have 36% of our students that are eligible for free and reduced lunch. That number at Mary Fisher is 37%, at the middle school 35%, and at the high school 34%. And our breakfast program, to give you a little update, last June when we were serving breakfast at Mary Fisher, 62 students on a daily basis ate breakfast at school. Now we're averaging around 200 students per day since we implemented the breakfast program. And the good news about the breakfast program is when Lisa calculated out all the figures and the reimbursement, remember that reimbursement rate is what helps us pay for those students who would typically have to pay. We're actually seeing a little bit of a profit. It's running in the black. So we know that it's at least sustaining itself. So that's good news. And if it carries off for the year, next year I'll come before you and ask for the secondary schools to get on that program as well. We do have grab and go and breakfast in the classroom at the middle and high school. That seems to be going quite well. In addition to just the free and reduced lunch numbers and the breakfast program, I know I had brought to your attention that we had some discrepancies in our cafe account. And in September, we came across the fact that that account was actually running in the red. And we asked Neil Green, our finance director, to do an investigation and find out exactly what happened with that account and how we could correct any type of deficits in the cafe account. So I meet with Lisa, and we just met today, Lisa Duran, Neil and I sit down every month and we go over the numbers, that money in, reimbursement rates in, around the cafe account, and making sure that what's coming in is paying for the program. I want to say this, that we have a very outstanding food service program. The quality of food, I think, that we give serve to our children is really second to none. And I'm really proud of that, and I think Thompson has done a really nice job with their meal program. But there is an issue that we did come across, that we are running in the red, and I did ask Neil to look at that for us, and he's got a little bit of a presentation tonight to talk about it. Yeah?
Okay. Just want to define a couple terms so that when I'm talking, some of this will make sense to you. I looked at the balance sheet and the income statement, the primary financial statements. The balance sheet is a financial document that represents the position for an operation at a specific point in time. In our case, it's always June 30th. It's the end of the fiscal year. On that is assets, liability, and fund balance. Fund balance being it's basically if you were in a for-profit operation, the owner's equity part of it, meaning what's left over after you've paid out everything and kind of rolls from the income statement onto the balance sheet. You want to have a positive fund balance. That's the goal. The income statement represents operations over a period of time, and for us that's July 1st of any given year to the following June 30th. And the format for the income statement, which is the primary report I do for the cafeteria operation, is revenue minus expenses, leaves you with ending cash, and then you add in inventory and accounts receivable for any lunch accounts that are due to get to kind of a computed operating position of where things stand. And the goal there is obviously to have revenue that's higher than the expenses, and you turn a profit or have left over, if you will. For the most part, the change in fund balance in any given year should be the bottom line of the income statement. So you look at operations over a period of time, you see where it ends up, and it rolls into the balance sheet in terms of in the form of fund balance. And the other way to explain it is the bottom line of the income statement is profit or loss. That figure flows to the balance sheet, and it favorably or unfavorably impacts fund balance. So that the issue is the fund balance position at where we stand right now. I'll get to that in a second. I looked at the food service financials from 2010 to 2017. I was somewhat limited for the first couple of years of that, 2010 through 2014, because the information drops off Munis. There's not as much detail available. But for the first several years, from 2010 to 2014, it was a positive fund balance. It started at $10,776 in 2010, ending at $9,410 in 2014. It peaked at $53,676 in 2012. Although there was a positive fund balance at the end of 2014, the food service operation, it operated at a loss of approximately $32,000 for that. The operation also operated at a loss in 2015, 16, and 17. In other words, expenses exceeded revenue. There's two main expenses when you're running a cafeteria or restaurant operation, in our case, the cafeteria piece. Food cost and labor. If sales go down, which they did during this later time period, 2014 through 2017, there should be a corresponding decrease in your food cost and your labor. From what I looked at, food cost did in fact go down, but labor cost didn't. So that is, based on my analysis, that was the cause of the deficits in those years. So now the question turns to, how did this all impact fund balance? So what I did was I looked at three things. I looked at detailed income statements that I prepared for 2014 through 17. Once again, I couldn't go back any further and get detail because it's just not available in the financial system. I looked at the balance sheets from Munis. Those are basically town prepared documents. And then the town financial reports that are prepared by Bloom Shapiro. In some cases, Bloom Shapiro will look at things and then recommend to the town that they make adjustments to the balance sheet. Arguably, these three things should be relatively close in terms of difference between revenue and expenses and our bottom line and its impact on the fund balance. So I was unable to recreate the income statements for 2010 to 2013, but what I was able to do in comparing the balance sheet to the audited financials, everything pretty much agreed to the penny in those early years. So it made perfect sense to me as an accountant. That started changing in 2014. There were some amounts that were close, but in some cases there were significant differences. 2014 and 15, the town and auditor figures reported significantly higher differences between revenue and expenses compared to the detailed income statement that I had done. And that appears to be the case for FY17, although those numbers have yet to be submitted by Orla and reviewed by Bloom Shapiro. So the audit's still outstanding, and there's been a delay in that. They got some kind of extension. That's on the town side, so they're waiting. The current balance sheet reflects a negative fund balance of over $128,000. I want to state for everybody that figure is absolutely positively wrong. It's not the case. So what I did was I reviewed the details. I emailed both Orla and the Bloom Shapiro lead auditor back in November, and I did a manually prepared balance sheet saying, here's what I see, here's what I think needs to be done. And at a meeting just before the break, Orla agreed with an adjustment that I made related to, or suggested I should say, related to recording accounts receivable. That adjustment, when she does process it, will improve the fund balance by $52,994, almost $53,000. Orla does not follow my rationale related to another entry that about $34,800 that negatively impacts the cash in our fund balance. In addition to everything I've gone over so far, and I know I've gone through it quick, the Orla indicated there's a possibility that some incoming grant receipts may have been posted to the incorrect fund. So in our case, the cafeteria fund is 8840, which all the grant money related to the food service operation should go into an account within that fund. She thinks there's a possibility that some may have gone elsewhere. She's looking into that. She was going to start before the break, but she didn't get to it. So it's not done. I called and got an update on that this afternoon. So if that was the case, for example, then revenue would be understated as well as the accuracy of our fund balance. So by my estimate, the true deficit in the fund balance as of right now, the way I've got it calculated, is around, I would say, between $40,000 and $50,000.
Okay.
Currently, with Orla's adjustment that she agrees to, it would bring that down, the 128 down to about 75.
Right.
So the 34,800 that I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you were to take that off, if I was right, would bring it down into the neighborhood of what I'm talking about. But it still all has to be reviewed. Orla has to figure out if there's any mispostings or anything like that, as well as the auditors who will not offer any kind of opinion on this till they have the numbers from Orla. I know that's an awful lot to digest.
All right, so I guess if we're doing our thing, we know how much officials cost, we know how much our oil costs. Why is this involved? How is this involved with the town, and who's ultimately responsible for this? That's my first question. So you just pass everything to Orla, and this is up to her now?
Without getting into a whole bunch of the detail, the primary responsibility I have is preparing the income statement, which is a report I file with the state annually. It used to be a piece of paper. Now it's done online. It's basically a pro forma income statement, meaning they tell you, they have the lines, I plug the numbers in, submit that to them. Now, jumping back a little bit, daily cash receipts from the food service operation. We prepare deposit slips, Lisa takes them down to the town, they prepare the deposits, get them to the bank. There's also accounting entries that they make that impact the balance sheet side of this, and that's done, once again, that's done by Orla and or Paula down at the town finance office. All the grant receipts that come in, I don't have anything to do with those. They all come in mostly through wires from the state. Mm-hmm. Orla is responsible for posting that activity.
All right, so here we are, $128,000 in the hole. And this is cumulative over how many years?
Well, it's kind of since 2014 to the present. Okay. Remember though, that number is absolutely positively wrong.
That doesn't matter to me. So at the end of the year, I thought we closed out all accounts. Why wouldn't they be closed out year by year? This is running.
She does close out, on the balance sheet side of the equation, there's two control accounts. One's revenue control and the other's expense control. And those accumulate over the year, and typically the income statement side that I mentioned that I keep track of, the revenue expense there should roughly approximate the revenue expense control accounts that are on the balance sheet side. And also the auditors also report it's kind of like a mini income statement, if you will. They simply show cafeteria on the financial statement with a revenue total and an expense total and what that difference is. So it's three different places that you do.
So where does the buck stop? Is it with you, with her, or with the superintendent? I mean, I hear what you're saying, and you do your thing. She's doing her thing. Obviously, there's something wrong. We went from 2014 to having a positive balance to being $32,000 in the hole, if I remember. That's a huge swing. That's over $40,000 in 1 year. Something's definitely wrong. It's not like somebody put a decimal spot in the wrong place. And that's just about the time you started and about the time she started, correct? So, I'm not pointing fingers, but something changed along the way. So somebody's doing something differently.
Well, I think it's a combination of things. As I said, I did an analysis of revenue and expenses over the 4-year period, 2014 through 17. And as I mentioned, sales went down, but we didn't see that corresponding decrease on the payroll side. Now, one of the steps Melinda and I have already taken is, and well, Lisa implemented, was to eliminate 1 FTE. There was just too much labor. The labor cost was way too high given what we were doing in sales. It just didn't make sense. So that's the cause on that side. But I think in combination with that is part of the piece that's happening down at Town Hall. Not only do they make adjustments or accounting entries down there, they also make adjustments, as I mentioned, as directed by the auditors. And there's some of those that are still being looked at, and then there's the piece that we may not have recorded revenue properly. So I'm fairly confident that I'm close to what the number actually is, and it's a result of from 2014 to 2017, expenses exceeded revenue. Simple as that.
So as payroll stayed kind of static, and sales went down, did the purchases go down corresponding?
There was no expense line items of particular concern that I looked at that were alarming. It jumped right off the page. I walked through this with Melinda. It was payroll without a doubt. Nothing in the other expense categories.
And we didn't buy anything. We didn't buy like a couple of freezers or anything like that. Okay.
Well, I did have, how do you account for the inventory? Are you actually physically counting that once a year, or is it just kind of steady as we go?
Well, let me give you an example. When I started looking at the financial statements, audited financial statements, one of the things that caught my eye was, there were several things. For 3 years running, the same inventory balance was reported. That is impossible.
That is the problem if your purchases are going down.
And what's supposed to happen is that the inventory is taken. I provided to Orla and the auditors. They're supposed to do an adjusting entry so that on the balance sheet, the inventory asset account properly reflects the correct inventory.
Correct.
I also noticed that was a problem with the state of Connecticut receivables. They were always showing it. What happens is you get to May and June and you're waiting for the state to pay you back for the school lunch and breakfast programs, and it usually comes in July, August, or sometimes even September. So you have to show a receivable on the books, and that number was shown the same figure for a couple of years. And on top of that, just a small example, there was a $60 miscellaneous receivable that was sitting on the books for 10 years. That should have been written off. I'm sure you know that, and it wasn't. I did reach out to the auditor on this, and the response I got was, well, this is it's a small fund, it's part of many other funds, so we don't take a good look at it. We just audit what the town gives us, and that's it. They kind of seem to want to wash their hands of it, in my opinion. They haven't, all the emails that I sent, I copied them as well, on the emails that I sent to Orla. Said, look, here's what I'm seeing. Can you give me, what do you think or anything? And they it's fallen on deaf ears. I did not get a response.
Because that could be part of the problem too. You keep inventory artificially inflated, and all of a sudden you count it when you're in bank. There's a loss that you weren't aware of on those years that we were running, favorable.
That should have been a one-time thing. It wouldn't be every
Well, no,
year.
but if it hit 1 year, you would carry that loss. If this is and then if the labor is, like as he said, we're overstaffed and just keep accumulating as part of this is an accumulated loss.
Joe.
Melinda, what is the department manager's financial responsibility on their budget?
So she prepares a monthly statement for Neil, and from that, Neil takes those numbers from Lisa and puts them into his spreadsheets. But since I've come on, I've been sitting with her every month since we noticed that there was a problem, right? It was late August when we stumbled across this because Lisa wanted to buy a piece of equipment, and the common question is, well, okay, what's the balance in that account? And then we find out that there's a deficit in that account. And so she prepares a report for us every month that we go over. We submit it we were submitting it to you Neil's translating it into his monthly report, but I look at it, and if you go back the previous years, it doesn't take much to flip through those reports and see the negative balances there. So those monthly balances that were negative were being reported by at least Lisa every month. So I don't know where along the way it got goofed up, but it certainly did, and this is the year that we're gonna have to correct this. And so, you know, Neil and I met with all the principals, and we went line by line through their budget, knowing that we may have to recoup some of that money to zero out this negative balance. But moving forward, this month's report shows that we're a little in deficit, but that's because there's 3 pay periods in December. That's gonna even out next month. Right now, it looks like we're holding our own in the lunch line. So there is accountability there. She does prepare the report every month, and we do sit and meet with her every month.
But that's past years. That book's already been closed.
That's what,
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
mean.
that's past year. That book's already been absorbed into, we don't have retained earnings, into the general fund. That's gone. It's already been eaten up. On the town side, the town takes whatever we have left. And those accounts that are on our books that somehow or other got absorbed into a revenue / expense fund, and it's gone. We don't have to eat that.
Well, again, that's
I
why,
doubt.
why
I
are we
mean,
showing
that's
this,
government
why are we
accounting.
showing this 128,000? Shouldn't it be just from whatever it was from last June till now?
Yeah, 'cause
Wasn't
it-
it prior to that, weren't all these closed?
All there's
Somehow?
accounts.
They take the balance sheet as of the prior year,
Mhm.
they make any adjustments, and then you get, they close out the revenue and expense control accounts, and it
Yeah.
gives you a bottom line for fund balance, but the fund balance can increase or decrease from year to year.
Well,
It
But the
doesn't
school
accumulate,
budget is
right.
the school budget.
budget.
Right, this is in a separate fund, it's not in the general fund, it's not 9901, it's in 8840. And I haven't even got a definitive answer to the point you're trying to make about the fund balance.
Yeah, because I would assume that
Well-
those have all been closed out,
Whatever fund.
reconciled, done,
You
and then
remember,
we
this
move
was
on.
this was different, it's a different fund.
Yeah.
And it always ran, we always had money in there, to the point where they used to pay half of their,
Equipment costs.
not the
Yeah.
equipment, but their
Yeah.
benefits,
Yeah,
the benefit
benefits, yeah,
costs.
yeah, I know
And then we
what you're
took that
saying.
away
Mhm.
3 or 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was. But there was always a balance in there. So if we were to go to, not bad, to horrible, something
But
is.
but the expense and revenue still has to close out to a
That's
cash
what
account.
That's what I would think, but.
Yeah, that's like the, to me, it's similar to the recreational, to the rec department does the same thing.
Mm.
They pay for their bus trips, they do that other thing, and everything at the end of the year collapses into a cash account. And that's what's left, or not left. So they're running a negative cash account, which maybe has to be
So
filled from the
right now,
general fund.
we're waiting for Orla and her
So that may be the
her
case.
version of what's happening, and then
Mm.
the auditors need to look at this again.
Whether they do or not, I don't know, I've asked them to, they seem
That may
reluctant
be the
to.
case, they're running a negative
to wanna
cash
do
account
that.
over there that.
I don't know, all I know is that if we need a new freezer, we need the money, and whose responsibility is it to make sure that, you know what I'm saying?
I'll point my finger at the town.
I don't wanna point fingers at anybody, but I just want it fixed. Yeah.
I think we're really lucky in that we, I went through this effort, because, when Orla mentioned something about the fund balance, I wanna say maybe April or May of last year. The food service fund balance is negative, we're gonna have to tackle that at some point. Well, before that, I hadn't really thought to go look at the balance sheet and figure out where that stands, because the town is responsible for that particular financial document. I don't prepare it, I've never have, and it's not something that any.
And I understand, and
Oh, yeah,
you're doing your thing, and you're submitting it, and I would wash my hands of it too, but we
One of the
need to
things I
fix it.
learned, though, I just wanna make sure I point out, is in looking at the income statement side, which is the part I am responsible for, when I first got here, I found the form that Lisa has, and I also found a spreadsheet, the last spreadsheet that somebody prior to me had done. So I was using that as my template to file the report. Well, it ends up there was a lot of things that belonged on the income statement that weren't being captured. FICA and Medicare, for example. There are accounts within the 8840 fund that weren't being captured on that. on that income statement, as well as miscellaneous income and some other things as well. So there was a lot of things that were, so all the reporting that was done prior to that, well, actually from 2016 and earlier, really should be refiled if the state would accept them. They're all wrong.
Okay, so you're.
So that's where.
All right.
Another
Go ahead.
question I have, because you mentioned it, and it seems to be a recurring theme, is that it's possible that some grant money wasn't being put in the right spot. Who's responsible to make sure, because again, it seemed as though when we switched town managers, we started all of a sudden losing some grant money. We know what happened with the readiness grant. I mean, the blanket belief that the town gets all income isn't accurate from just a basic standpoint. So maybe it's time we look into every single grant, every single dime of revenue that is school related, and make sure that it's not ending up in the general fund.
I actually do, and I caught a $30,000 mistake, because what happens is the state wires us the money in most cases, and Orla sends me a spreadsheet that comes along with it, in conjunction with that wire. And I go in and look at the account where the money's supposed to hit, and I actually found one that it was posted to the wrong thing, so I emailed her, she fixed it. But this dates back to—
Seems like a regular occurrence, though.
Well, once again,
I'll
we've identified a problem.
listen,
I want to help fix it.
I don't mind saying it. It just seems like a regular
I'll leave
occurrence
that to you
that
to-
income
that
seems to
part.
go to the wrong place. And so I think we need to figure that out.
She said it's possible dating back to 2014 or so when she started that there could be some errors, and that's what she's trying to do, is go back through all that transaction detail
Yeah.
and see if in fact that's what happened. But now what we do is, so the spreadsheet comes in, I look at the accounts, and the other thing we do too is, since we do send cash receipts down from us, we leave them a sheet, as money hits Munis and it hits the bank, we actually get the sheet and make sure that it's hit the proper accounts for those too. So every deposit that comes through here is being verified that it got to the right place.
So the good news is there's a good system at our end for checks and balances moving forward. Now we're just trying to figure out what happened previous to this year.
And we gotta keep a better eye on it, because there is gonna be a point in time when we're gonna need a piece of equipment, and we need to
You're
make sure
right.
there's money in there. Anybody else have?
Question.
Yes.
The adjustments, does she notify you when these adjustments are done? Like, I'm new to the board, but I kind of like to know like how that communication goes between you and her, like, when you suspect something isn't right and she says does she come back to you? I mean, what is that communication like between yourself and Orla on these adjustments that
She
you're
first told me that she wasn't doing a lot of entries, but in my review I discovered that they do in fact do quite a few entries that impact the 8840 fund. The adjustments I referred to, in most cases it's the auditors coming back and saying, oh, we looked at this and you need to make an adjusting entry. I was not really involved in that process. From an audit end, what they would do is they'd come in, they'd ask for certain documents that Lisa would prepare or I would prepare. We provide them to the auditors, and then the interaction from that point on was between Orla and the auditors. I think I mentioned to Melinda today that I'm going to insist that we be included in any discussion of any kind of adjustments they're proposing to make, because we all have a hand or a piece of the pie, if you will, in terms of reconciling and accounting for this activity. Because there's some, obviously, and when I sent the document, my revised balance sheet to them, I put the rationale behind it. I explained it. You debited this and credited that. That's not making sense to me. And I'm not perfect. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm seeing. Can you please tell me? And that's what I didn't get a response to yet. It's somewhat frustrating. But yes, so we are going to be looking at that very close. And I'm just going to insist that the auditors include us as part of the conversation going forward.
Well, they're gonna have to include us, since 3/4 of the budget belongs to the school. We have to make sure that it's right. So if you have any resistance, please, we'll deal with it. We'll make sure that you're involved. All right, anybody else have questions for Neil? Thank you. Okay. Aaron Portal.
So, I think most of the board knows that, we've been working with a student information system, and Heather has been trying, and it is a bit archaic and probably needs to be revised or upgraded to a new system. But right now, the system that we currently have is Radicar, And one of the things that we have been working with, and Heather's been working with the teachers over the past couple of years, is getting their grade books into that system. And then since they've already accomplished that, now that system can be made public to the parents and also to the students so that they can see their grades in lifetime. And so that's called the parent portal. And so Heather's here tonight because at the end of January, we're excited that parents and students will be able to download an app on their cell phone or on their computer, and they will be able to look at students' grades, attendance, and other demographic information in real time. So,
Yes.
and you know, to Heather's credit, she's done a tremendous amount of work preparing for this particular moment in time. And when we launch it at the end of the month, it is not going to be perfect. And there might be some bumps along the way between now and as we flush out any of the bugs. But I want to say thank you to the extra work that the tech team has done to get us to this point with our Redical system.
Thank you. And I'll thank the secretaries as well, because they've really helped me in looking at some of our data that's currently in Rediker and just combing through it, and I've been bugging them constantly, I still do, just to make sure we have everything correct. So this first slide is kind of like the homepage of what the parent portals look like. I'm sorry, it's a little blurry, but you can see it's a glimpse of the students' grades and kind of just a glimpse into the teachers' grade books. The next slide, this is the demographics tab. So the parents can actually log in and update their own information should we have something in there that might be incorrect. Sometimes I know numbers get accidentally transcribed or something. So they're able to edit this on their end, which will help us tremendously on our end. The next is the attendance. Excuse me. The parent can see how many absences their child has had, excused or unexcused.
Glad that wasn't around when I was in school.
My mother would be so proud.
Next is the report card. This is just kind of a simplified version of the report card that we email home currently. So this is nice to have. Probably, I don't know, this year we're going to kind of keep doing things the way that we're doing them because it's kind of a big change all at once. But next year we may be able to just simply send the parents an email saying the report cards have been uploaded to the portal, saving paper.
The same with progress reports can
And
be
the
done that
progress.
way too. Other
Yep.
districts that have portals just send that email out and don't send anything home unless there's a parent who doesn't have internet access, so it saves us from having to prepare those.
Yep.
Oh, and the students have access to this too.
Yes.
So we don't have to, they will be able to look at this and have access to it even if the parents don't want to share it with them.
In my experience, the students log on more often than the
That is
parents.
true.
I have one quick question. Can the students manipulate it?
No,
No.
Okay.
not unless they're very nice to me. Well, I can manipulate it, so if they're, you know.
Well, you say that, but.
This is just a screenshot. The parents can also go in and view the student's schedule. Or if the student forgets where they need to be, they could have the app on their phone and look at the schedule as well. And what is this one? Oh, discipline. So this is a frequent flyer. So the parents do have access to log in and view discipline incidents, and the next slide they can actually click into each discipline item and view the details of that incident. They won't get notified of a new incident through the system. That will probably be an email still sent or a phone call from administration, but they'll then know that they can log in if they want and view the details. This is, scores. So this is up at the top, there's a drop-down menu. You can toggle between the students' courses, and this is basically a peek into the teacher's grade books. You can see each assignment and the grades. And I think I cut this off, but if you scroll even farther down, you're able to see all of the homework assignments that have been assigned to your student as well.
Would it show assigned, completed, everything, so.
Not yet, but
Okay.
eventually that will happen, yes.
And it's real time, it's not, it's,
Right.
as soon as the teacher uploads it and finishes it, it's.
Mhm. Instant, yep.
We have told the teachers that they have 10 school days after they give an assignment or an assessment to post those grades, so the students are gonna know that as well, that there's a 10-day window, so we can get those grades in there.
And there's also an email function of the program. This email is also linked with the email we have on file for the parents, and it's linked to the teacher's school email. So if you send them a message through the portal, they'll be able to check it in their school email as well, so they won't miss it. And the same thing for the parents. It will go into, if you're using Gmail, it will go into that email program as well as this one. So really it's just, you know, the overall goal is to really improve communication between the parents and the teachers. Hopefully saving the teachers some time after school from making all those phone calls, because the parents can now be proactive and they can log on whenever they want to see how their students are doing. And if you have a student in the middle school, a couple students in the high school, they will be all linked to one login, and that was a lot of the background work we had to do, was to link all these households together, which took a while. But yeah, so any
So
questions?
the good news is it's for middle and high school.
Mhm.
We're not at the place where we are ready to enter elementary progress yet, but that's coming down the pike. And then the other thing is that we wanted to make sure that we're gonna give training to the parents. So Heather's
Oh,
gonna be
yes.
sending out communication to the parents, telling them when the portal is gonna open.
Mhm.
And then she is also gonna be holding some evening parent meetings, so that if parent needs help downloading the app, or they wanna have some help logging in or correcting any of the information, she's gonna be on hand to do that for them. And you have those dates, haven't you?
Yeah, the 30th we're going live, and then the day after is when I'm going to do the parents, make myself available, probably in here. And then possibly after conferences, maybe in February,
Okay.
if people, they might want to trickle in at that point as well for some help.
Well, are we looking at moving the 10-day window to something live? I mean, it sounds like this information, if we can make it live, would be the best. I mean, I know we're trying to get it up right now, but is there any thought
That's
about
what-
moving it from the 10-day down to something that's approaching live?
So it is live,
The
It is
teacher's
live.
grades are the 10-day.
but the teachers have 10 days from when they give an assessment to actually get it into. They could do it that night,
Right, but it only takes, if we look at it from a strictly a manufacturing standpoint, the activity only takes seconds.
It's the grading, it's
It's
the grading
grading that's
process that they
10
have
days.
time for.
it's giving the teachers time to do the
Okay.
scoring.
So it's not 10 days to get it in, it's 10 days to get
No,
the
no.
test graded in, and
Yeah.
get it.
And then, right.
I wasn't clear.
Okay. Got it.
But, you know, I give Heather a lot of credit, because she took an SIS system that, you know, I've been complaining about, and she made it work. So I'm very pleased that she's going through all that effort.
Does anybody have questions for Heather? Go ahead.
My question was on that grading. So from the time a test is taken, 2 weeks?
It could be anything from a multiple choice to an essay.
Yeah.
So just by creating a standard, I mean, you don't want to race to come to an evaluation of a grade. So you don't want parents to expect that if the test was given Thursday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, that the grades are all going to be uploaded and entered by noon.
Agreed 100%. 2 weeks seems like a long time. That's
So
I-
part of this
That's
is, part of this is to give the teachers a little time to adjust to the portal as well. But if I'm an English teacher and I've given term papers and they're 10, you want to prepare kids for college, and I'm going to encourage my teachers to give a good length 4 or 5 page term paper, and they see 80 kids, that's going to take potentially more than a couple of
No,
days.
I get it. I'm just thinking of my kid in college. It doesn't really take
But on the other hand,
Not
a
nearly
math
that long.
test is black or white, it's right or wrong, and
Right.
it could probably go in a couple of days, I would think.
And
if the teacher
the
has time.
students themselves, my experience with my own kids doing this, is the students themselves put up plenty of pressure on the teacher to get it in sooner rather than later. And the teachers themselves feel that knowing that people are looking, they'll actually be well within that 10-day window, but it's just
It's
a,
someplace to start.
Just curious.
yeah.
Did you guys pick that 10-day yourself? I mean, was that something that, because I
picked the
you
10-day
did?
based on past experience with opening portals in 2 districts, trying to give the teachers that,
So eventually it
time
might
to
come
get.
down once they.
Yeah, it usually shortens itself organically, but we wanted to make sure they got used to it. I mean, this is new for our teachers, to have grades live. Let's see how it goes between now and the end of the school year, and maybe we can readjust once they're used to it. We've shortened it to 5 days.
We find, Chris and I find in the juvenile review board, when we ask the kid how he's doing, or the client or case, how he's doing in school, or she's doing in school, they can dial it up on their phone and give us all the grades within seconds. It's nice to see.
So through the portal, will you guys be able to give a good distribution of a particular class, grade distribution?
I can do that without the portal.
Right, and that wouldn't be public knowledge. I mean, that would be for, something that the board would request, but that's not something as a parent that you would log in and see?
Yeah, parents wouldn't see course information, they would only
But
see information
you
about their
could
kid.
easily do that.
But I could
like
easily
if
pull that for you,
It's
yes.
been asked for in the past, right?
Right.
Great.
Just like you-
That subcommittee has not been rescheduled, so we didn't.
I understood, but
But
you know
if
where
you-
I'm going.
Yeah, but if you ask for it again, we could produce that very quickly.
Heather, will successive years, like, will you, if they transfer from one grade to the next, will you be able to go look at stuff as the previous years, or is it gonna cut off a school year and be done with? Because I know some parents like myself, I've been through it with other school systems.
Yeah.
It's, I don't save paper form now, but I have this, so.
There is the choice in the report card section whether we want to remove what was previously there or just have it keep going. So I think the report cards, you can go back for historical data on that.
So you'd close it out every school system, every school year, you'd
Yeah.
close it out?
Yeah.
I think that's definitely, you can do a setting for the report card, so whether or not they could see back the year before as well on that report
Yeah.
card tab. I think if you go to the discipline tab, which might be 2 more, I'm also I assume the schedule tab would reset as the years change, but I'm pretty sure the history may very well go back for discipline, unless we may be able to do that as well, to make that longer term. I don't know, but that's the other one that I know you can do in some other ways, so that's possible.
Why would you want it? Don't you want to wipe the slate clean? And
Oh, I would.
So do
I just was answering her question, honestly, but I wouldn't encourage us to make that call. Every kid deserves a new shot every year.
Then the other question I have was from past experience. When kids are assigned an assignment for a given teacher, sometimes there's only a window of maybe a week that they have up to do it, and then they close the assignment out. Does your system have that type of feature where even if they don't pass in the homework assignment, it's gonna be closed off and they could never come back to make that assignment up? Or is it just open all the
They
time?
can always, the teachers can always edit that.
Yeah.
Now, will this also have the announcements, and I saw a tab up there, so that'll be good, that way everybody has the same.
I'm actually happy about that, because then we can post flyers and any kind of announcements there, because sometimes parents will go to this more often, and they're gonna look at the website or
Yeah.
Twitter or Facebook, or
There's also a
even
spot
the
for
listservs that we email.
Yeah, a spot for
Stuff
alerts.
like that.
I
So-
don't go there.
No, but it'd be nice to have
You
one
have to
set
make
place to
it
go, and it'd be all the
Yes.
same for all 3 schools, and yeah.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Can I just ask, I'm just curious, does this transfer to any other schools if they don't have Redeker? So say that student is in 8th grade, 9th grade, they going somewhere else, or maybe even?
No, I think it would just be their paper transcripts that would follow.
Yeah.
Would there maybe be a report?
Yeah, the portal is just a tool to view it. It isn't it's not a new thing. Redeker still works. But this portal is just a web-based version so that it's a viewer. It's really all it is. There's not really much other than the ability to edit the demographic information. There's really no other way to do that. The reports still come out of transcripts and so forth, still come out of Redeker the way they always have.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
All right,
So
next
we're gonna
up,
leave that.
Mrs. Baker, you're up.
So, I am thrilled to have Mrs. Baker come up and talk about her next 2 projects at the high school. She's been working on since the summer with her team. And I thank her and Ian and the teachers at the high school for what she's about to present tonight.
I would like to very much give Ms. Smith the credit for absolutely launching this into warp speed, which is exactly where I want to be. When I first started at the high school, I can remember Mr. Eichner asking why we weren't an AP district honor roll. And it weighed heavily on me, as I knew that we had the ability at the high school in order to offer more AP credits. Historically, we've only offered the math, the calculus AB, and the U.S. history. So in addition to all of the other wonderful college opportunities that we have at the high school, which you'll hear more about in this presentation, to be able to offer more AP classes was definitely in my goals. And with Mrs. Smith coming on and starting the AP committee this summer, pulled together quite a few members that were just as excited to get going as well. So advanced placement at Turtelot, an opportunity to earn college credit. Go ahead. What is AP? Everybody refers to it as AP, that's why I've listed it as advanced placement. Advanced placement is a program that is offered by College Board. College Board is also the author of our SAT, which is the metric which measures the SBAC or the CMTs, the student performance at the high school level. Typically it's in 11th grade. We've just now started to institute all the way to the 8th grade our PSATs, which will give us incredible longitudinal data. But to be able to work with the AP in tandem with the College Board being the same metric, it's nice that we're looking towards those same developmental growths. But advanced placement offers Turtelot students the opportunities to take high school courses where they can earn college credit simultaneously. The ability to decide to take college credit earning courses lets colleges and universities know that students have what it takes to succeed in an undergraduate environment. Advanced placement is nationwide. So when they're applying to schools across the country, they are all looked at with that high rigorous curriculum program. So what better way for us to be able to, within our own environment here at Turtelot, with our expert teachers, help our students build the college skills. So by being introduced to these college level courses, our students are able to build these skills by refining time management, being able to learn deep problem solving and the study skills, so that we know that they have had a quality program that's really going to indicate their success at the higher levels. As I said a minute ago, admission officers, they look at these transcripts and they know the students have experience and with confidence that they are prepared well for the challenges of college. You can see that currently 2.4 million students take part in the AP exams. That's what this honor roll is all about. This is about secondary education institutions continually trying to improve their programs and being recognized for doing such. So I know that with our 3-year rollout, we are destined to be finally on the honor roll list for AP. They say in 38 subjects, we have 35 that are identified for us. But like I've said, it's an opportunity for students to earn college credit. There are some simultaneous enrollment opportunities that I can certainly go into through QVCC, Nichols, ECE, with UConn. With AP, what it is they are asked to take an exam at the end of the year, and their performance on that exam will make them eligible to be qualified for those credits. And so when students score successfully on the related AP exam in May, many benefits follow. Most colleges and universities nationwide are awarding the credit for the AP classes, and what that blends into for them is that they're able to advance through intro-level courses and jump straight into their upper-level courses. And that can free up for them a number of opportunities, whether they take a second major or they explore other opportunities that may be of interest, but also even to study abroad. And in the best of cases, and I've experienced this with my own children, graduating early and saving huge amounts of money. But again, being able to successfully launch earlier, college level AP courses, they provide the opportunity for our students to experience what they will experience during their next phase of their educational journey, and along the way certainly build confidence. So we ask our students to accept the challenge. They optimize their high school experience, setting their sights high, and as I said, Turtle Lot offerings have traditionally been the 2 courses, but what does that mean for us in the future? Where we've been looking at our AP and our AP Math and AP History participation, you can see over the course of time that we are slowly increasing the percentage of our students that are participating, and the percent of students that we can expect to enroll in these classes. I can also say that nationally, the AP exams are hard, and nationally, students are about 50% passing those, because you need a 3, sometimes a 4 out of 5 in order to get that to be considered for that college credit. But I'm really proud to say that our performances over time have increased, and we can say that about 80% of our students are passing this with that recognition. So we're really pleased at their ability to take on and succeed with the challenge. The next page is a comprehensive list of what AP courses are available through College Board. But you're going to see a lot of notations. There's a very small tick line about what we currently offer. Again, those are the AP, Calculus AB, and US History. But then you can also see the asterisks, where in year 1, the number of courses that we're going to be adding within our own school, with our own educators, having been trained to deliver this curriculum directly. And then there's courses that will be rolled out in year 2. There's a clearer graphic that comes up next, year 3. But what's really interesting is you're going to see an inverted V, and those are the courses that we are currently, by working with VHS, which is the virtual high school, able to offer right now, immediately. Students could go through this online blending opportunity and enroll in, I believe there are 35 classes that they can take advantage of right through VHS right now without any training on our teachers' part. But of course, we want to make this our own. When Mrs. Smith came in and working with Ian, she chose some excellent educators at the high school. They developed a survey. You know, sure, we could put a whole bunch of courses in place, but if our kids aren't interested in why bother? So a lot of time and effort was put into surveying our students all the way down into the 5th grade. So you can see their interest in AP courses, and this is also to be taken with, so what AP course would you be interested in? If you can imagine asking a 5th grader that, do they really understand the gravity of the question? That might not necessarily translate into the actual enrollment, but it's a great place to start. So you can see to the far right, those that are the 5 top that are in red. The AP Chemistry is our leader. On the bottom, we have AP Drawing, AP Environmental Science, Biology, and Physics. So when asking our teachers, so I'm sure you remember the first year that we did the program of studies under my direction, we collapsed our levels. And we asked our teachers to become much more well-versed in differentiating, and we went down to just the 3 levels of coursework. So by taking on that challenge and now going back and looking at their curriculum, what can you do to your current curriculum that just needs a little bit of tweak to raise that rigor that we can then align with AP, that naturally you can do next year? And you might need a little more time. You could do in 2 years, or you know you want to do this, but it's going to take you a little bit more time. You can do in 3. So how this survey interest translated is in this 3-year rollout. The first column identifies, again, what we've been currently offering. Of course, with offering any of this AP coursework, we need time to train our teachers. In Vermont, St. Johnsbury University is where they will go. They will spend a week training. And we have 4 of our educators that are excited about going up and getting started this summer. You can see AP Biology, AP Computer Science, AP Government and Politics, and AP Studio Art, directly responding to those survey interests on biology and something in drawing. So we anticipate being able to put those 3 of those courses directly into our program of studies, and they are there. There is a little bit of investment that we need to make in order to have all of the resources involved, but we're willing to commit to that, and we're able to balance out doing a zero-based balance budget. We're able to look at exactly what we need in order to provide excellent education. The reason that the AP Computer Science isn't planned to be implemented until 1920 is knowing the readiness of our instructor, but also knowing his meticulous nature and wanting a year to really look at the curriculum and wanting the time to be able to develop it with his expertise level. So while we're only going to develop three more teachers the following year, one of them being a repeat teacher with the AP Drawing, we're going to be looking into the AP Chemistry, AP Music Theory, with the implementation of those 4 AP courses the following year. Actually, would you go back just a quick second? And then in year 3, you can see the addition of physics, statistics, English composition, and the European history. What's really nice is just by having a conversation with our teachers and knowing what's great for our students, everybody from every department wanted to step up and move into this. Go ahead.
One quick question. I don't know anything about art or drawing, but since they had put drawing as a desire, why is drawing coming after studio art? Because I don't know the difference between the two. I'm just curious.
It could be the instructor's preference. Honestly,
Okay.
I didn't ask her that question, but I certainly
She
could.
already offers a studio art class.
I got you.
That is not that just isn't AP. So she feels more
Easier to
ready
do that.
to make that transition now without having to figure out what that would entail, like she will with the drawing. So she's buying herself a little more time with the drawing, whereas this one she's ready to do tomorrow.
Okay.
What's really great, and I'll say here for just one more quick second, is if you look at the AP Government and Politics and the AP Studio Art, those are 2 courses that are not offered by VHS. So they could be in demand, which you may hear me at one point in time do a presentation on how those 2 teachers becoming VHS teachers are exploding our opportunities for online blended learning for our kids. So just a little aside on that. So what does that mean then? So that means that we have 23. 23 is our current number of college earning credit opportunities. And what I'll do is I'll hand out to you the if you wouldn't mind, Jody, taking one of these and passing it along. This is a list. If you remember last year when we came to the program of studies and we were producing a summary of all of our changes, I had a single-sided sheet that talked about the college credit opportunities that we had through QVCC, ECE, Nichols, and AP. I am really excited to say it's now double-sided. So these are the courses that are all being identified within our program of studies. You'll see to the far right anything that is new. So that 23 are the current college credit offerings that we have in place at Turtelot through 10 of our courses. Go ahead. I've identified that 54 are the current credits that you can earn through VHS through their 18 courses. Continue. By the end of going into 2018-19, we're going to be able to offer in-house the opportunity for students to earn 42 college credits through 15 of our courses. And VHS needs to watch out a little bit because we're about to steal 21 of their credits with the expertise of our in-house teachers. So we're excited to still network with VHS because they do offer some incredible opportunities, but we're really excited too that our teachers want to take on that challenge. The most incredible number, after all 3 years, Turtelot Memorial High School is going to be able to boast that we offer 66 college credit earning opportunities. Excellent.
Megan?
Yes?
66 college credits, but would there be a pathway for...
Not every student would earn all of these 66.
Oh, no, not every, but
Right,
would there be a
because it's all very
pathway?
different interest levels.
Is there a pathway for anybody?
Yeah.
For any one person, from freshman to senior, to earn all 66? Is there a way to...
Yeah, that's 66.
I'm asking.
No.
So what would... No, it's not 66 courses, 66 credits. What would I mean...
Go ahead and hit the last button.
I'm just curious what the max would be that somebody could
But you're going to want to take into consideration developmental level. We're going to want to look at, okay, not only does that opportunity for college credits start in high school, But if we have students that have the capabilities of doing algebra or physical science in 8th grade, why aren't we backing it down?
Right.
Why aren't we having them cross our borders to come in? If we've
Yep.
got somebody who's mathematically inclined, why aren't they taking algebra 1 and geometry in 9th grade so that they've got opportunities for pre-calc and stats at the end? So being able to individualize and calculate that, it is very easy to say that a student who knows where they're going and is successful in all of their courses could easily earn a full 18 credits, if not 24, and tackle a full year before they get to college. The problem with that is, and we have experienced this before, is that it messes with their housing. Because they get to college and they're technically a sophomore, so the college has a hard time. Where do they help these kids find housing? So if that's the biggest challenge we have, I'm ready for it.
Yeah. I mean, 20 credits seems easy. That's happening already.
So, I like that this is where we're going moving forward, but I'm just concerned about, is our middle school, our elementary, preparing them to get into the 9th grade? Because I can see now that, having a student here at Turtelot, they're in talking to parents and being in the community, that students are struggling, that they're asking for more help in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Because when they get to the 9th grade level, they're like, you offer all this, that's great, but how does Susie get to that point? And that's the problem, it's good to support this, but what are we doing at the middle school level now? I think we need to look at, do we have what we need?
And I'm very ready to say, Melinda has a plan in place. In working with our state agencies, there are specific metrics that we're going to start looking at, and I'll let you talk more about that. But early intervention is the key, and if we have to reallocate or we need to look at it, absolutely, we need to build their foundation as early as possible.
I mean, my key thing is like with the math and the sciences, we're not, I don't know if we're failing, I don't want to say that, but we could do better in those subjects.
So during my budget presentation, you're gonna hear about staff shifts, and it's to bring more resources down into the middle school. And we talked about that whole alliance, and I'll talk more about it next week at the special meeting, but one of the things that we know is that our students are not showing adequate growth, individual adequate growth. And so we need to support our students better and our teachers better. And so we have to take the resources we have. We can't keep going to the town and keep asking for more money. We have to take the resources that we currently have under this campus roof, and how do we reshift it, reorganize it, and bring those supports down to the middle level. And then, of course, eventually down to the elementary. But right now, our focus should be on our middle school. I think our high school is doing a really nice job, and we need to prepare the kids for the high school. So
and what's really nice, and I know you have a question, is that not only with the AP classes, but because of all the manufacturing that we've been doing with kids and all of the blueprint reading and the AutoCAD, we really are tailoring higher education opportunities for all of our students, regardless of their strengths or their weaknesses, because there's a whole group of students up there that are looking to go to QVCC in order to get that manufacturing certificate. And if we can help them, especially with their manufacturing math, take that class here, and Mr. Joy started that course this year, we're already setting them on success. And they're gonna shave off an easy 6 months from their 18-month credit course, so that they can walk away with a certificate for being very employable. So it is about our college-bound kids on this end, but it's also about our local college-bound kids, because there are different abilities out there and different mindsets. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I love seeing all this. I'm like you, Donna, and the fact that we can tap into like QVCC for those kids that aren't going to go to college. My interest and concern is, do we have the adequate guidance in 8th grade to high school to recognize the kids and send them in the right directions? Like, how do we assess the kid coming out of 7th and 8th grade? And of course, some of them at the maturity level, all that stuff taking into account, but do we have the people that can recognize within the school systems themselves, middle school and high school, to see and direct in the right direction? Do we know our kids well enough to know that?
If I can take this one.
Go for it.
It just so happens that since we started going, giving the PSATs, which are of course developed by College Board as well, since we started giving the PSATs in 9th and 10th grade, and this year in 8th grade, the scores of which are sitting in my bag because they just came in today.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes?
yes.
I've been
I
waiting
just
for
found
it.
out when I got here. One of the things that comes with that is access to what College Board calls the AP potential, which they basically do a report based on PSAT scores that tell you these kids, based on their scores, are potentially good candidates for these AP courses. And so we have all that data as far as right away, like immediately I could tell you which 9th graders and 10th graders that took the PSAT this year are good candidates for AP courses moving forward. So while we may not at the moment have the capacity with all of until these teachers really go through the process a little bit in seeing these courses, but College Board does prepare us with that information so that we have an unbiased source to determine that as well.
So in addition to the data, that we can use that we can step in and say, hey, have you thought about, we're working straight on with creating pathways. So what are you interested in? If you're interested in this is the pathway that you should be following. This is what you should be exploring. And I know that Mrs. Smith has brought those out to you today, and we'll be talking about those in a moment. Just to get them thinking, so that college is an option at 8th grade, because that natural transition to 9th grade isn't always going to be successful. So we do need to be able to be in touch with them right away.
And if I could just go back to your question, Donna, for a moment. Some of the classes, and I know because my kids have taken them, like AP Calculus and AP Physics, really rely on a lot of groundwork having been covered early on in school, and like particularly in middle school, in order to even reach that particular point. Courses like AP Stats, AP Computer Science, as well as Drawing Theory and AP Gov, the government class, those don't require as much of a foundation in terms of being accelerated to even reach those points. So I think we have a good mix of courses coming online that both will require exactly what you're saying, that strong foundation at the middle school to be in place so that we have not just kids, but enough kids ready to take those courses, but also the opportunities for kids to take AP courses even if they haven't had they really didn't decide to really hit the ground running until they got to high school. Those kids are still going to be able to be really successful in classes like AP Gov and AP Stats and AP Computer Science. Those two in particular I can speak to, as I have 2 children who have gone through them, and I can tell you that they're much more tangible for the kids than in some cases calculus. And even my son, who is not a math kid necessarily, flew through AP Stats and flew through AP Computer Science despite some of the things I can't repeat that his Algebra 2 and geometry teacher said about it. So.
And this might be a perfect segue into the work that we've been doing around taking our current coursework and aligning it to career pathways. And so if I can
Absolutely.
Dovetail it to you, Megan,
Oh,
you want to
sure.
go over the pathways?
Oh,
So
sure.
we sat down as a team, and Megan's been working on this and IAMS with their teachers since the summer, really taking a look at all the courses that we currently offer, some that we would like to offer in the future.
That's like sort of like Sean sit down again.
Yes, I think we can. And so we developed 6 academies and aligned some of our coursework, and then we also dropped in future courses, but the goal is to talk to our 8th and 9th grade students currently and show them the progression of these pathways based on the courses that we currently offer. So Megan, do you want to go over
Sure.
the academies?
So Mr. Joyce and I'm sure that all of you know Mr. Joyce from our Career Tech Ed program. He's just over and above, is always there. He's working with the marine science. I mean, he never says no to anything. And he is one of our biggest grant writers. He's always chasing after, what can he do to align his coursework for his students to QV. I have a hard time keeping up with him, but he and I started last year working on a pathway to be explicit to kids. If you're interested in going, and it's the last page if you wouldn't mind on your packet. What coursework should you be doing in order to be able to get into QV, to get some of those QV courses out of the way, to be able to do those QV courses with us. So you'll notice on this chart, anything that has a, I don't know, is there a real name for that? There is
A tilde.
Tilde, there we go. Like after UConn, ECE, or the SolidWorks on the 12th grade, those are courses that they would already get credit for college as well as the high school. So they would get 1 high school credit if it's a year long, and then 3 college credits for if it were a full year, and 2 if it were a half. So you can see that by identifying what the prerequisites are for students, graduation requirements, of course, Spanish, foreign language is not required, it is recommended. It's not one of our requirements for graduation, but colleges still do kind of look for that, so if you can build it in. You can see how across the top, you've got, these are the courses you have to take, but then where's your wiggle room and where can you continue to excel? And then along the bottom, you've got 2 pathways, one being a sequence of manufacturing, the other one being a sequence of architecture and construction. So this would give a student who says, you know, I want to do this, a nice map of what they should be doing instead of getting to junior year and saying, oh wow, I really wish I had taken Foundations of Art last year so that I could take this course this year and have it make sense. I'm going to run out of time. Because of course our goal is a 4-year graduation. So that one we put into place last year. Business and finance has always been a strong department up at the high school, and that's the first page of the packet. So you can see all of the options that are available, but there's a real critical sequence, especially in the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, that you see a computer apps. Yes, that's a college credit for a freshman, a marketing as a sophomore, that would then lead into a money management in the finance as an 11th grade student, as a junior. Because then you're going to want to pair it off to the accounting 1 for the junior year and the accounting 2 for the senior year. I know that I've been touting Mrs. Tupai's new articulation with Nichols College. Our accounting 2 has always been college credit at QV, but Nichols reached out to her this year. Again, having one of our own sitting in their class, already mastered all of the topics, all of the concepts, and they called us and said, we really need to articulate with you because the work you're doing there is so phenomenal, and the kids deserve this college credit so they can excel. So you can see a business management sequence as well as a marketing and sales. So again, it's a nice clean map that's already been in existence, but where could we go from there based on the survey? Well, we once had a communications academy, trying to look at, you know, how can we continue to move forward with this for those kids who are interested in that? How can we be specific about what should you be taking if you're interested in the performing field of music or in the visual arts? So you can see on the second page, again, a map, a pathway of what kids should be taking if they're interested in going into and lining up with college courses and or certificates.
Speak to the comp silent.
Sure.
The next one.
There you go.
So I'll take over for the next one, which is the computer science and information technology. This is the one that I'm probably the most passionate about, if I'm being honest. Again, this is my son's major, so I had a little in on trying to help do this. I would like to, obviously the setup is the same. I do want to draw your attention to what a couple of the courses in the 11th and 12th grade that say CompTIA. For those of you who don't know, CompTIA is an exam, essentially, that provides certification for people to have the ability to work in the technology field. So the guys who the guys who work at the Geek Squad at Best Buy or at Staples or one of those places, they have certification that would allow them to work on your computer and charge you an exorbitant amount of money to do so. There is no necessarily age requirement for that. So one of the real benefits to this pathway is our students in 11th and 12th grade would be able to take these CompTIA, we'd create these classes that would end, similar to an AP class, would end in an exam. They would take the CompTIA exam. They'd be certified as level 1 technicians, and as early as 16 years old, they could be off working, that could be their part-time job, working in one of those, in any one of those places to help fix computers, working as an assistant to Heather as part-time even over the summer to do, I mean, and Heather does bring people in over the summer, but the idea of being able to say, look, these kids are now certified to do some of this work. It is a real opportunity for kids to make themselves marketable before they ever step foot in college. And I can tell you that my son gets to school and he's looking for a job just to make a little extra money at school. He told me he would have killed to have this opportunity in high school so that he could go to any of those places right now, have a job in a heartbeat, and be able to make money while he's in college. So
Kristen and Kyle.
it's a real opportunity.
So you may be asking yourself, but we don't offer Comp TIA fundamentals. We don't have a teacher for that yet. If you look at these maps as a current 8th grader, the class of 2022, you're being the freshman of next year. That's truly who these are designed for. We may still be able to capture some of our class of 2021 going into their sophomore year because that freshman year is so prescribed, but this really isn't tailored to a current senior, obviously, or a junior that's going into their senior year, because they're already invested in a pathway that may or may not have been lined out for them. So what that does is that gives us minimum 18 months to get this into our program of studies, minimum of 2 years to, find the right educator, find the right certificate, and be able to develop that curriculum. Right. So, and then that takes us, would you like to speak about the last two?
So the other two that came out tops on the survey were the health services and law and public safety. And so we looked at, Megan and I went out to QVCC and met with Dr. Drummer and her whole entire team to talk about the opportunities of coursework that QVCC can offer to our students concurrently while they're at Turtle-Lot. And some of it might be courses that they would take in the summertime. Some might be courses that they take while they're in high school. Some of our teachers can be trained, like the medical terminology, and I think there's another one, investigations in health careers. Our teachers can be trained to teach those and offer the QVC's credit. So those are going to be easy to implement. What's going to be a little bit more challenging for us under law and public safety, as we're looking at a law sequence, emergency response, and then the firefighter, dropping in the emergency medical technician training, and then dropping in firefighter 1. That's going to require some expertise outside of the school, and so we have a couple of years to work on that and get that in the pathway. But Megan's right. It was initially designed and mapped out for students that are currently in grade 8 and grade 9. And it's to basically take our whole program of studies and try to map it out with a visual. That's what some of our neighboring school towns have done, and put these academies in place. And it's not that difficult because many of the courses we already offer. And we have teachers that are dying to jump on board and teach some of these classes. So it's going to be a progression and it's going to take time, but at least there's a map and a plan in place.
And so by looking at the law and public safety, you'll notice the out-of-the-box thinking about offering public speaking and law to freshman classes. Those are 2 changes that I'll need to make to the current program of studies, because currently they're only offered to the upperclassmen. But you know what? You need to break out of your regular mold sometimes to be able to embrace something that could offer more opportunities for others. So those are 2 changes I would need to make once we get to talking about the program of studies. Yes?
Question on like SolidWorks.
Sure.
Now we don't have the infrastructure to manage SolidWorks here, correct? So they have to.
We're doing it.
Running it now.
We're running it.
You can actually run SolidWorks?
Yes. We are successfully running that right now. Oh, my choice is amazing. Amazing.
Okay. So they don't have to go to QVCC?
No, it's in-house, 100%.
So if they have to go to QVCC, do we provide transportation for these kids?
So we haven't gotten to that place yet.
Okay.
We're trying to get as many teachers trained to teach the courses here, obviously. But there's some online options through QVCC that we found out when we met with the team there, which we didn't know about. So we'd obviously look at that, and then maybe some summer options for students to take.
And I don't know about the longevity of the current Pell Grant, but there are some opportunities where educators from QV are coming out to communities. But we've also talked too, we've got a nice relationship going with Putnam. and to be able to build that bridge, because if we can better serve all of our kids in the northeast corner, that's definitely the ultimate goal.
Other questions, Joe?
Melinda, is there any opportunity to bring in expertise that is non-teaching, looking at, from the teachers going out to be trained in these AP courses, learning what to teach versus teaching what you've learned is two completely different animals. Is there any opportunities for bringing in those expertise as part of this AP program?
So I'm thinking there is, because we just need to talk to the CSDE as far as getting someone certified to come on, you know, as a visiting professor perhaps, to come in that area of expertise. But many of the high schools do that. They bring in experts in the field to teach those classes. So I think under the EMT and obviously Firefighter 1, we're going to need those people to come in that might not necessarily be an educator, but can certainly teach those classes. And that's the legwork we're going to have to do to get that all lined up. But I think that's very possible, and I think there's people in our own community.
Oh, there's tremendous opportunity in law and public safety, you know, so.
I'm actually excited about it. People have actually reached out to me, some, you know, along the way. You know, it's gotten out there that we might be looking at that, and have actually said, please give me a call when you're ready, so.
But Joe, also, you know, in the course, for example, under the law and public safety, that principles of law, public safety, corrections, and security, probably in order to provide credit for a student, the high school credit for it, probably has to be taught by, at least have that certified teacher. But it would seem appropriate, more than appropriate, for that teacher to design that course in such a way that it includes members of our own community to participate in those classes for the, you know, especially during those, you know, particular units of study. I mean, I don't see how we couldn't do that. That would be more than appropriate.
Other questions, comments?
One real important question.
What is you can't come back and do it again once you've graduated.
What is human geography?
Good question.
I've never heard that term before.
It is basically geography through the lens of the movement of human beings and how people have settled, why they've settled, where they've settled. Not just, when people think of just geography by itself, it's, oh, here's the map of Africa and here's where all these countries are. Human geography has to do with the interactions of people in those environments. So it's not just about the, I appreciate the test.
Thank you.
I got you.
Might sign up for that one.
Anybody else? Any other questions or anything? Thank you.
Sure. So does that take us then into the program of studies?
It does.
So I hope that you were able to receive the summary of changes, trying to make it as clear as possible. Of course, some very obvious changes, just updating staff, dates. You'll notice the removal of proposed credit requirements. Graduation requirement law has been stuck on Capitol Hill for forever, and it's still stuck. So unless we are told that graduation requirements are now being changed and mandated, we're going to stay with what works. We're going to stay with our 24 credits. We're going to stay with our current requirements. So that constant push off of, oh, next year it's going to be this, or no, we've taken it out at this time. And then I did a quick summary of the college credit earning opportunities. I put a list for anybody who wanted to be able to put their finger on a page. So you'll find that on page 27 of our program of studies. We removed, there are courses that come and go every year in order to keep it fresh for our kids and to keep opportunities moving. So this year, not to be fading into history, but just to be removed for the next course year, was the film as literature. But Advanced American Government was taken out so that we could move into the AP course for the instructor. And engineering was also taken out because Mr. Joyce is doing now what's called mechatronics. But they aren't a parallel course, so that's why they weren't listed into upgraded course. Additional courses, you've got creative writing, the AP Biology. AP Biology Lab is a year-long course for one college credit that must be taken simultaneously for a student who is taking the AP Bio, just because there's so much lab work that goes into that course. And then we have the, like I said, the AP US Government and Politics. Modern Age History is coming back. Mechatronics is new. Engineering Careers is new. And of course, we've got the over 200 virtual high school online funded courses. The upgraded courses, this answers the question of why AP Studio Art first and not AP Drawing. She changed her honors Studio Art, just tweaked it enough so it could become an AP course. Principles of Money Management. We're currently working with QV on the Money Management course in order to make that an articulated course. Currently it's a half-year course, and we're probably about 2 weeks out from hearing finally, so we may need to do an amendment to the program of studies, because currently we have it as a half-year. It is worth 3 college credits, but if they ask us as a final criteria to go a full year, then we're gonna have to obviously make that change, and I'll come back to you in February with that. Advanced Math 1 has become Math and Trigonometry. Computer-aided Design is now college credit earning for CAD SolidWorks, and the Architectural CAD has stepped up its course to be the AutoCAD, again, a college-bearing course. I'm really hoping that you've got a whole list of edits and little fine-tunes. I found a capital I in civics, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how long has that been there? So yeah, so, no?
All right, so we need a motion to accept the changes?
Is that?
Oh, it's not there?
There should be a sticker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, so we're not under action items.
So do you move it to action?
We need to add it to action items, so let's how about
Make a motion, we move the amendments to the program of studies to an action item.
we have a motion, can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Linda. This is just to move to action items. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, so it'll be letter F when we get to it. Okay, thanks. And then we can ask more questions then if you want. Administrator reports. Ms. Beltram, you haven't said anything already. Do you want to say something?
You missed me.
I did.
Do you want to sit up here while I'm?
No, Deb and I is safe back here, we're good. I don't have a lot. I'm just going to bring to the board that we have a new PE teacher, and he's had 2 whole days in front of our kids, and doing well. He loves it there, watched his class for a while, and he's going to be very, very good. So Beth Tenike has been working with him over the vacation, been in touch, so he has, support of everybody that's on the PE staff, and has been already in contact with middle school and high school people, so it's a good start. I just want to say that, in this board report, it was a season of giving, and since we had holidays, and this community, I hope it's been both a give and take, receiving and giving out to the community. People from our staff and from our students have donated. Nikki Kinsella and Andrea Tomeo counted up 241 pairs of pajamas that our staff and students donated, and that went out to the community. That's a lot of PJs out there, so that's nice. 42 pairs of hats and gloves. There were boots, 62 pair of boots. And I understand that Teague has gotten a donation from the Lions, and they will also be able to offer anyone else that our counselor comes in contact with, or teachers see a need for, to make sure everybody's got warm boots. And, so that's great. In fact, mentioning about the Lions, they are coming tomorrow. They're coming to our 3rd grade to donate dictionaries to each and every child, and thesauruses this year to 4th grade. So a very nice gift to both of those sets of kids, and it will be a personal donation, theirs, And the reaction, we've done it in the past, and some of these kids hold it right to their chest, and it's like, they can't believe they've gotten their own dictionary, and so they're put to use right away. And so it's a lot of fun on both sides to see this donation. And that's pretty much it. We've had a wonderful concert. Carol Rossetti put herself out there several times between the cold and with all the other music teachers, and between performing at the hospice, Day Kimball's hospice, tree lighting, and our own several concerts. We did 3 concerts at the school, 2 for parents, 1 for the school. She's got a hockey game that they're going to be performing for Taser, for the Railers, they're now called, at the DCU Center, and middle school is usually partaking in both of that. You know, they get, the music teachers get together, which is nice. You know, they've now formed teams of their own, music and PE, so it's great, and art. So anyway, all of that's happening in the music world and in the community.
Okay. Mrs. Spinelli, anything going on?
I'm not gonna say much more today.
No, in your notes, I
Yes,
don't know what they
yes,
already are.
yes.
So you already saw about class act in your notes, and esports. Our basketball is in full swing. We do have a cheerleading coach this year. That doesn't have to be me, which is great.
Slightly less entertaining without Deb doing that.
They don't just clap this year. And basketball teams are struggling, but we're at the very beginning of the season. So we're this week should be a little bit more positive for us as far as who our opponents are. But we're going to struggle this year. And indoor tracks, up to 30 kids. They're doing well with personal bests. They're going to be participating at the East Providence meet this weekend, which is their last, like, league meet kind of thing. And then the championship for the ECCs at Coast Guard Academy will happen in February, beginning of February. But our indoor track team's exploding.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Mr. Birch, how are you?
Good, Neil.
How was the cleanup?
Good.
We have Mr. Brissett on patrol for you.
Mr. Brissett on patrol, thank you.
That thing is loud.
That's good, it's supposed to be.
I couldn't imagine being.
It tells the guy driving the oil truck that the tank is full stop.
My son heard it when we walked out of my parents' house. They live over by the American Legion on a side road.
See, and I thought he was one of my patrons.
No, no, we walked out of my parents and he heard it.
At any rate, we've had a little challenging month there. The cleanup went okay. The guys put in an awful lot of time, and I give them a lot of credit because they didn't stop. The cold over the last 2 weeks was more challenging than the snow. And I give the equipment a lot of credit because it pretty much hung in there. We lost one boiler at the high school last Friday due to an electrical component that just failed, as it's been in service since 1986. I have one on order. The other boiler continued through the weekend and did a good job. We lost a water heater last Thursday, also at the high school. I'm not so sure how old it is, but it's definitely old enough to drive and probably old enough to drink. So we let that one go. We had another failure. At the Early Childhood Center, unexpected, on Saturday afternoon, that I'm going to attribute to the wind because I can't explain it. But something caused all the linkage on one of the boilers to break. And we got an alarm. I came in, and I don't want to use the term MacGyver, but I used some zip ties and got it running until we bought some pots this morning and put it back together. So those are the biggest things. We did have a surprise visit from DEP just prior to Christmas. It was the Christmas miracle that showed up before the alarm went off, Sean. In essence, they have accelerated the school building project to some extent. We don't know to what extent just yet. but they have verified that the oil tanks that were supposed to come out of the ground last summer, they are going to push us to get them out quicker than perhaps we had anticipated. And we don't know exactly how that's gonna fall out yet, but we're working on it. We've, the architect has been chosen and hired, and he's started working on it already. He's had contact with DEP to ask them, you know, some questions and direction that he should be going in, so we're moving forward.
Can I ask a question? What do we've known about these oil tanks for a long time, and it seems like we, as a town, are dragging our feet on it. What can we, as a Board of Ed, do to help push that forward?
There's really nothing we can do. It had to go to the town, we had to put money in the budget. We got the $166,000 for the oil tanks, for the roof, and to develop or investigate alternative energy. There's really nothing we can do. It starts there. It starts with the town, starts with the budget. And as we know, it took this long to get the budget this year.
It just seems that we keep putting ourselves in this risk of heavy fines for not acting when we should.
I think we acted responsibly, and the building committee was formed to address this problem, and we moved as quickly as we could as a building committee. And we are moving forward, and the architect is going to draw up his plans, talk to the DEP, try to get the extension that maybe we can do it in the summertime. If they say no, then it's no. We have to close the tanks and get portable tanks. But I think I'm hoping they'll be reasonable and let us continue the way we are. But I think the building committee has done everything they could.
Yeah, I think it's more of providing the building committee the resources it needs to move forward.
And it's all money, and as we know, it's the budget that was passed.
Bill, what I didn't realize is that these tanks they met their life last year. So why didn't we form a building committee 3 years ago?
We did, when we had the emergency tanks that had to come out.
Specifically to work on these tanks?
Specifically to get the other ones that were leaking out, and it morphed into this. But that was the priority, to get that done.
I mean, it's a town-wide problem that we have, but
yeah.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out a municipal government snail's pace. If you know tanks are gonna reach their life in 2020, you don't start in 2019.
Well, these will be the last two that we're going to have to worry about in our lifetime, right?
I know.
There's one more for somebody else to worry about.
For somebody else, not for us.
Yeah.
But just as a point, Sean, this has been no secret.
Oh, I know.
We've been talking about these oil tanks, not since the last one, but since the one we pulled out in 2005.
Yeah.
We've been talking, we knew then the life expectancy of these tanks, and when they were gonna age out, and we knew at that time, during that building project, that they just weren't quite old enough to get the reimbursement back, but it was gonna come soon, so this hasn't been a secret.
Oh, I know it's not a secret, but we all know the town government, not only town, but the state, everything, all moves slow. I mean, they're gonna put a sewer system up on the town hill. Was that 15 years ago they started talking about that?
I've been living there 21.
So,
Yes.
the point is that we shouldn't even come close. We shouldn't be waiting. If 3 years isn't enough, let's, 5 years. Same thing with the leaks. I mean, we're dodging leaks every other day. Start the process sooner. I know the town doesn't cooperate, but the sooner we start the process, the better off we are, with everything. That's all.
All right, anybody else have questions for Mr. Birch? Mr. Sugarman, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Don't have much. I mean, December is always typically a little bit slower in January, just with the weather and what's been going on. The extended winter break has been a little bit slow. Quick update, our Title I and Title II grants were recently approved, full funding for those. Just so everyone knows, this isn't new funds, this is already part of our revenue and budgeting that we have. Slightly less in some areas, but also with any entitlement grant that we receive, we also are responsible, because we are the LEA, of filling out those grants for the private and parochial schools in the district. So whenever we talk about it, very rarely, if the grant is for $150,000, all of that is for us. There's always a portion that's going to Marianapolis and St. Joe, so I just wanted to clarify that too. The other thing is, I know Ms. Smith mentioned our out-district number at the beginning at 16. I know in the report that I provided, you'll see 16, but you also see a different number. I just want to clarify, because this is the first time this might come up. One, I put two different numbers for out-district. I put out-district factoring in students that are choice students. That's the number, that's 16. And then I also put in the number that's out-districts, us paying for private schools, placing a kid out. Because those are two, in my eyes, two different situations with students with IEPs. So the out-district number, us placing kids out, is actually 15. The 16 is actually includes the one student that's a choice student. So I didn't want you all to think that Ms. Smith and I had different numbers. It's the same number. I just put that in there. I always put that in there because I think those are two very different stories, if you will, of why kids would be placed out. And last, I noted it in the last board report, and I delayed it again now. And part of the reason, just weather and a lot of the focus right now and any free time is going to be kind of getting budget work done. So I just wanted to be transparent. In the last board report, I did put in there that I was going to provide like a mid-year update on the strategic plan, and I changed it from January to February. I just want to be transparent about that. So in February, what I did last time, I don't know if you remember, I provided that little chart about things that we're working on and the progress. I'll do that again in February, just so you all have a summary about the different things within the special ed strategic plan that we're looking at, and how things are progressing forward along those lines.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Scott, how are you?
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. The last board report, I let you guys know that Mr. Cooper and Mrs. Palazzo Gagnon were writing a grant for Fuel Up to Play 60. I want to report and congratulate them. They were successful. They didn't get the full funding of the $4,000 that they looked for, but they got $2,499, which is great. So kudos to them. I also want to reiterate what Ms. Beltram said about the chorus. We had a fantastic holiday concert. This was the first time under Mr. Leclerc's leadership that all 4 grades sang as a choir, and they sounded spectacular. They'll be singing actually at the Providence Bruins game on the 26th as part of their military recognition night. So looking forward to attending that. And I just want to go on record and thanking Mrs. Peltier, Mrs. Connolly, and Mrs. Prouty for organizing the Student Art Showcase at the public library. A lot of artwork was displayed and a lot of talent was shown. So I just wanted to commend them.
Mrs. Baker.
Can I do 2? Our exam dates had to be adjusted, having lost 3 days of our first semester in October, and then these last 2 days, this last week, we have changed our exam dates to be the 19th, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. We will get out communication to our parents. Our students were informed today, it is on the web, but we will be getting out formal information before the end of the week for our families. That, of course, will adjust our marking period dates for the remainder of the year, but I believe too that the middle school is going to be following them. We worked real hard over the summer to have our report cards going out as close to each other as possible, especially for families with multiple children. It just kind of made it a nice benefit for them, and if we can do it, then we will certainly do that. But then my really exciting news, I don't know if you know Christine Gaumond and you want to pronounce my last name of her, or correct my pronunciation of her last name, class of 2002. Christine, G-A-U-M-O-N-D?
Gomo.
Gomo. Okay, there we go. I knew someone would know her. She is now working with United Way, representing the Family Village out of Hartford. She contacted Mrs. Tupai, and we are super excited to say we have 4 current high school students and 2 graduates that attended what was supposed to be a 14-hour training to be able to be authorized IRS tax preparers. So we have students who are volunteering their time out in Putnam 1 day a week for the entire semester, or the entire season of tax season. They are Amanda Boguslawski, Dan Langloy, Michaela Godzik, and Skylar Wazalowski. Our alumni include Hunter Angelo and Sophia Prouty. We are super excited that they took advantage of this opportunity, and that they will be giving back to the community.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for any of our administrators? Okay. Let's move on to, since there's no students, action items. First one is our meeting of December 4th. Could I have a motion, please?
Move to accept.
Second, exactly. Discussion, any changes?
Just a couple.
Yeah.
I love it.
I thought I'd let you do the honors, Linda. I found some.
On the first page, the second line up, she stated that he, current bus, it should be the, put a T in front of each.
Yeah.
On the second page.
No, there's another one on the first page.
Well, you can have that one. On the
Okay.
second page, William Witkowski would like to, the Board of Selectmen to meet, just has to be reworded, would like to meet with the Board of Selectmen to discuss. You can have the other one down.
Okay, now on the last line, it says,
A well job.
a well job. He's doing a well job. It's either she's doing a swell job, or she's doing her job well, I'm not sure. A well job. Well,
She
might have.
Okay, anything else?
That could be his favorite.
Okay. With those corrections, all those in favor of approving them, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes. Next one is the meeting of December 11th. Could I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Linda. Very good.
Second.
Thank you, Jody. Discussion on these?
The second page, the last thing about the Title IV grant. I mean, I could be wrong, but when it says the focus from the grant funds, do we have grant funds, or should have been grant funds? I mean, it'd be nice if it was grant funds, but.
The work is
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting these minutes with that one correction, please say aye.
Aye.
Then, objection, and I'll abstain. I wasn't here? All right. And the last one is the meeting of December 18th. Could I have a motion, please?
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kathleen and Linda. Anything here?
I haven't seen anything, but,
Okay, all those in favor of accepting these minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Done. B, the National Register of Historic Places application.
This is a continuation of what we started back in 2009. The 1909 building is on the Connecticut State Historic Register. The next phase to that would be the National Historic Register. Preliminary investigation tells us that we would have no problem getting the building on that distinguished list. It's one of the most distinguished buildings in town that's not on the list. So I think it's time to move forward with that. I apologize, I did have a stack that I left on my counter of what the National Historic Register means and what it doesn't mean. Basically for us, because we are moving forward from the trust perspective, to restore the building in its original shape. That's all the register looks for. If we do those types of things, it can open us up for grants for that building in the future. So that's basically what we're trying to do. Not only the distinction, but possible further grants in the future. We have a meeting on Wednesday, and I just want to make sure the board is on.
So does anybody else besides us have to approve this? I mean, the selectmen or anybody else?
When we did the state historic register, we basically just gave consensus from the Board of Ed to do it, and we did. And it doesn't affect really anything in how we manage the building or how we manage the school, but just for the sake of transparency, I wanted to make sure that the board was on board.
So you wanna?
But does being on the National Historic Register, would that regulate how we operate? No, it doesn't, so we
You can do whatever you want with the building. If we choose to change the roof, for instance, which is the home library problem.
Yeah.
What you risk in the future is possible grants, not.
So you could continue to have the offices in there.
You still own the building and you can still do it right.
You could use it for any purpose you want, as long as you continue to keep it historically correct.
The National Historic Register doesn't dictate how you use the building, as long as you keep it historically correct. The trust is what limits us to what we can do with the building. You know, that we have to use it for educational purposes.
Thank you.
All right, and our acceptance would just show our approval of the whole process here?
Yeah, it's a lengthy process, and we didn't want to engage in it without, again, the board being on board.
Okay, so I think the board's on board, but how would you like us to accept this? I mean, a motion to what? To support the idea, or?
To approve requesting the National Historic Register application, or approving pursuing the application.
How about you make a motion, however you want it to, whatever you want it to say.
I would like to make a motion that we allow the Thompson Historical Society to pursue the application for the National Register of Historic Places for the 1909 Turtle Lot Building.
I will second that motion.
We have a second. Any other discussion?
Get it?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I could say it again.
It's tape. Okay, so no other discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Recording secretary reappointment. Now, in our policies that we seem to have missed, we need to reappoint a secretary every 2 years.
Is there anybody interested?
We have a secretary, but after those mistakes, I'm not sure that.
Unlike other boards, we still have a secretary.
That's true. So we have a secretary, and I would like to reappoint, or I don't know if I need to nominate, or we just reappoint.
How it
but
works.
let's,
Looks like you just appoint.
Is it just?
We have to vote on these. We
Right.
make a,
All right.
we make a
So
recommendation
you make
that
a
we
recommendation?
reappoint her, and then.
All right, so I'll make a recommendation, we appoint Danielle as our recording secretary.
So then I'll make a motion that we accept your recommendation.
I don't think you have to do
Deal.
that.
No, that's fine, because I only recommended it. Now we have a motion. Okay, so Sean made a motion. Could I have a second? Thank you, Val. Any discussion?
But you want to stay on as secretary?
She doesn't have a choice. She doesn't get to say anything.
She doesn't get a vote.
Oh.
That's right. You don't vote. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of reappointing our secretary, Danielle, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Congratulations.
Bet you feel honored.
Okay, our next action item is the non-union salary increases. Now we have, I think there were 5 individuals that we have not increased at all this year. And that would be Carrie Tatro, Lisa Duran, Tamara Zimmer, Lynn Glode, and Mary Aubin. So Somebody wanna make a motion, or?
I think we would be making a
So
motion
you wanna
to.
include the.
Oh, I was gonna do that different, I was gonna
It's
do
a
them
separate
separate,
one.
I was
We're
gonna do them
talking about
separate.
technology?
Yeah, well, let's.
No,
No, let's
there's
just,
the
let's
crossing
just.
guard too.
Well,
Is that
that's,
separate?
that's different. Let's do these
These
five,
five.
because the recommendation is 2%.
So I think, do we make a recommendation, I mean, do we make a motion that
I
we
wasn't
accept?
even gonna do that, I wasn't even gonna do that, I was just gonna say that I was gonna make a motion to, as we discussed in executive session,
Right.
to, accept Mrs. Smith's recommendations for these for the increases.
Right.
That's right, but we have to vote in public with the,
Right,
with
well,
the amounts.
Right.
We
And
do
so-
have to
yeah,
have the
yeah.
amounts in public, okay.
Right, so
Right.
we,
Which would
we have
be
the first, let's do it three times, all right?
Right.
Okay, cause we have the first five, and
Right.
that's all 2% increases,
Okay.
okay?
Okay,
So
2%,
we have a
all right.
motion to that,
Make a motion that we accept Melinda's recommendation of 2% for those non-union positions.
for these five.
Mhm.
For Carrie, Lisa, Tamara, Lynn, and Mary. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions, okay. Our next one is the crossing guard.
I move we accept the recommendation of moving that position to $15 per hour.
Do we have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Either way.
Jody.
You were first.
Any discussion on this?
No.
We're all good with this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Our last one is the reorganization of the technology department. For the purposes of discussion, do we have a motion?
Motion to accept, the recommendations for reorganizing the technology department.
Have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Linda's got a second again. Okay, discussion on this? No, yeah, we discussed it, but we're accepting the reorganization. Alright. Everybody's good, any discussion?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, okay, so that's one. Our last one is the program of studies, as presented by Mrs. Baker. Could I have a motion to that?
I'll move to accept the recommendation made by Mrs. Baker.
We have a motion by Joe, do we have a second?
Sure. Second.
Thank you.
I didn't wanna hog them.
Linda's been doing all the seconds tonight. All right, so we have a second by Sean. Discussion? We good? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions, okay, that's done. Correspondence, I have none. Old business. Our sub-pay, we've talked about increasing sub-pay a while back.
I was gonna say, a while back.
Yeah, it was
It's on a
at least-
Saturday,
it was at
isn't
least
it?
2 or 3 meetings ago.
Wasn't it Saturday or something too?
We've been talking about it for a long time, but we should do something.
Well, we again wanted to be in line, aren't we struggling for that reason?
We are, and we did took, I think we have a chart here Danielle prepared of the other districts, and basically, oh, here it is. We currently are at, for certified staff at $85 per day. My recommendation is to move it to the $100 per day. Putnam currently pays their substitute teachers $100 a day. Killingly pays them, the certified teachers, $105 per day. Woodstock is still at the $85 per day. And then non-certified with a BA, I recommend pushing it up from 80 to 95, and in Killingly, they pay their non-certified with a BA at $95 per day. It's gonna become a little bit more challenging to get substitutes as we start to roll up our sleeves and put our alliance plan in place. We are gonna need teachers to be working collaboratively, and so the demand on sub-time is going to be critical. Luckily, the funds under alliance will help pay for those subs, so.
No, this is something
They
we've
don't
talked
pay
about
for
for
those
years.
subs.
When we use them under.
When we do that, right, now, so when would this take effect, immediately?
Yeah, we'd like it to.
Okay, and can we afford it?
Neil has budgeted for it.
We have.
Do you wanna talk a
It
little
had
bit
been
about the
discussed
subline?
last year, so when formulating the budget for this year, I
Okay.
budgeted at the increased amount.
Okay. All right, no, we've talked about it for a long time, and I think we're all in
This is
agreement,
way
so,
overdue.
if somebody wants to make a motion.
I'll make the
we
motion.
have to-
Sean's gonna second.
I don't know, you're the boss, just throwing it out there.
I know it's not on as action items, but it is old business. So
I
you
don't
wanna
know.
add it to an act?
I have no idea what the rule is on that.
I'm not sure either.
Well,
We can add it to action
make a
items
motion
now.
to add it to action items.
Or we could do it on Tuesday if we want.
I don't care.
Yeah, let's do it on
Let's
Tuesday.
do it on Tuesday. Good idea.
I'll
That's
take
why
it.
we hired you.
See?
Well, then I'll ask my questions on Tuesday.
You wanna prepare anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask them.
Yeah,
They need time to find
So
something.
one of the questions I have is, yes, Putnam does pay $100 a day, and we wanna move to $100 a day, but Woodstock still pays $85 a day. Do they have problems getting subs at Woodstock?
Yes.
I don't know, but I
It
know
is
we
a,
do.
if I may, it is a common theme at the Regional Staff Development Council meetings at EastCon that I go to throughout the region. Getting substitutes is very difficult in this region all around, so yes. They struggle, as does every.
And even Putnam paying the $100 a day is struggling, so throwing money at the problem possibly isn't the answer.
Well, there's just greater
Not that we
competition.
shouldn't pay the 100, I'm not saying we shouldn't. But what I'm saying is throwing money at the problem, there's a shortage of substitutes in the area, there's a shortage of substitutes, and throwing money at it.
But if there's
But
a
there's
shortage of
Yeah, this
substitutes
is-
and I have a choice between
Yeah.
Putnam and Thompson, I'm gonna go to Putnam.
Yeah, they're in the
This
driver's
is just one of
seat
those
of
few times we're throwing money at, it's the answer.
Putnam's having a problem too.
Well,
No, I,
in my past, last year when I
We
did
agree
this in
with
my
that,
former
but-
district, I actually advertised on School Spring, we now pay $100 a day. And we get a lot of subs in because we advertised it that way.
Okay,
And
all right.
so-
So you approached it from advertising rather than, but yeah, we do pay $100 a day, so doesn't Putnam,
Right.
but we're advertising.
Exactly, and they might not
Then
know
why
that.
hasn't Woodstock gone up, I wonder? You know, not you know the answer, that's a rhetorical question, obviously you don't know the answer to that.
Okay, all right, so we'll vote on that, on Tuesday. So we'll just make sure it's on the agenda, please. Any citizens' comments before we leave?
what?
I'd like to second Mrs. Smith's comments, positive comments about our food service program. They have worked incredibly closely with our student leaders in their pursuit of voicing some things that they wanted to change about their cafeteria menu items, and they really provided some great educational opportunities. So again, another aspect of why our food service department the way it is. They're just a wonderful group of people. And they also got to vote in our holiday hallways.
With the judges.
Yes, they were.
And if I could just add one quick note, not as we're done with her passing out kudos. People don't often see all the work that Mr. Birch's guys have to do during the holiday season, making things ready for this concert, that concert, chairs here, tables there, trash barrels here, all the different things that are going on, and it all went off really without a hitch, and I just wanted to publicly make kudos to Bill and his team. So.
I want to just say one more thing too. As a long-standing resident of the town, born and raised here, I am so excited about this new curriculum thing. I just think it's so overdue. I'm sure Jody agrees with me with putting 3 kids through the school system. Mine, yes, they went up through 8th grade, but I was a product of this school system. All my siblings were, and it's a breath of fresh air to see what's going to come for the future, because we need to be in that position to be, providing our students the best that we can provide them, and I'm really excited about it, and thank you for the hard work to put that together.
Excellent. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.